Hello everyone! I finally got the time to sit down and check out the Warcraft movie trailer frame by frame, so I thought it'd be a good idea to sit down with you all and talk about the Warcraft movie trailer. I want to talk about the origin story that the movie is based upon, like in short. I want to talk about what I found interesting of the Warcraft movie trailer, and I want to give a little bit of an explanation as to what choices they made for the movie, like what differences will we find, and hopefully be able to explain to you guys what's going on. Right everyone, let's begin, shall we? Now the original story is a very big one. I'm not going to go into the full details. If you want those, I'll link some relevant videos down below. What happened is that the orcs were corrupted, they were manipulated into a war with the Draenei, and this war they embraced fell magic, demonic magic, they started to drink demon blood, they turned green and their planet became corrupted. Eventually, the one that corrupted them left them behind. They were in a bit of a pickle, but the corrupted guardian, Medivh, under the influence of the Titan Sargeras, he made contact with the orc Gul'dan, he told them about Azeroth, he told them how to make a portal, and together they got this portal going and they got the first invasion, the first orcish invasion of Azeroth going. With the orcs invasion on its way, Garona half-Orcan made contact with the corrupted guardian Medivh and his apprentice Khadgar. Khadgar had befriended Anduin Lothar, who was already friends with Medivh, and these three, so Anduin Lothar, Khadgar and Garona, they discovered that Medivh was actually corrupted, they confronted him and they took out this corrupted guardian. Now unfortunately, taking out the guardian did not stop his plans. The orcs were on the planet, the invasion followed, until eventually Garona was forced to assassinate her friend Lane Rin, the king of Stormwind, and she took his life.
The clans are united under Black Hand in this assault. They will stand together until Stormwind has fallen.
Before the coming of the end.
Gul'dan is bringing up his warlocks by nightfall. Until then, the Blackrock clan will be trying to take the eastern wall.
1,000 deaths. We will hold until the reinforcements come. As long as men with stout hearts are manning the walls and the throne, Stormwind will hold.
The orc leaders agree with your assessment.
She was forced to do this because Garona half-Orcan is actually an assassin created in order of Gul'dan. He had her magically aged, he placed magical spells on her mind, he trained her in the ways of the assassin. So when they found her, they activated those spells and Garona, with tears in her eyes, she took out Lane Rin, king of Stormwind, while his young son Varian Rin had to watch as his father died. With the king defeated, Stormwind quickly fell. Anduin Lothar, he took Khadgar, he took Varian Rin, he took as many survivors as he could. They set sail to the lands of Lordaeron, where they made contact with the king. They formed the Alliance of Lordaeron, they fought back against the Horde, they broke the siege of Lordaeron, they pushed the Horde all the way back to Blackrock Mountain, and there in the final confrontation, they took out the orcish leader, they knocked him out, they followed the orcs that retreated all the way to the Dark Portal, and there, the mage Khadgar, he disconnected the Dark Portal, he destroyed it, and he tried to sever the connection between Draenor and Azeroth. That's the origin story in a nutshell. It's a big story, like I said. If you want more references, more details, check out the videos down below. Now the story is a little bit changed for the movie. I'll do a summary of it at the end. But what we can see from scene by scene, let's just talk about the trailer as we can see it. I can't show you the full trailer, copyright and all that. But link to the full trailer is down below if you want to check it out for yourself. Now it starts with an opening shot of a griffin flying over what is assumed to be Dun Morogh, which is near the Dwarven territory. The griffin flies to a building or a city with a magical crystal in it, which looks, to me, it looks a lot like Dalaran, yet some speculate that it could also be the Tower of Karazhan, home to the guardian Medivh. It's a bit confusing with what's coming next in the trailer, but I personally think it looks more like Dalaran than it does look like Karazhan. The next shot, we have a grey-haired guy with brown robes watching as the griffin lands, which could be a random mage from Dalaran, it could be Jaina's mentor, Archmage Antonidas, or perhaps this is Khadgar after he's magically aged, or perhaps even the guardian Medivh. We don't know. I personally put my money on Antonidas, but who knows who this person is. Now the next shot has Lothar landing with the griffin, and if you look closely you can actually see that he has a passenger with him. Later on in the shot you'll see another young person with black hair in a magical place. So I'd say that this is Lothar and Khadgar arriving at either Dalaran or Karazhan or something like that. Just a general theme for the rest of the video. This is my interpretation of what we see during the trailer. don't take this as set in stone, it's just my interpretation. Now the next shot is of Stormwind, which leads into the same passenger that we saw earlier. He is now running up the stairs in the sky. Like you can see the clouds behind it, you can see that this is definitely taking place in the sky. A shot later on in the trailer will reveal that the city of Gul'dan is floating in the sky. And you might wonder like, why do you think that one city is Gul'dan while you know that's floating in the sky? But just look at the art, like the whole crystal thing, it looks very much like Gul'dan. And it could be that later on in the movie, Gul'dan decides to go up and fly into the sky. Because in the origin story, Gul'dan didn't start floating until way later, until Wrath the Lich King. So that has already changed. So why not make it that in the movie the mages open up their powers, they break away their city and they place it in the sky? That's a possibility. Either way, we see this character, this young kid, he runs up the stairs and he is welcomed by a group of people standing around. I personally think that this is the Council of Six of Gul'dan, the ruling council, as he informs them about perhaps Medivh's corruption, about the orcs invasion, that he informs them that the might of Gul'dan is needed to fight back. That's probably what's happening in this shot. Next in the trailer, you hear Lothar explaining that something is coming, which moves into a shot where we see Lakeshire at Redwich Mountains. It's under attack by the orcs. Then we see him kneeling next to a skeleton head. And then this shot where Lothar is freaking out, this one is very interesting to me, because I think that the guy on the floor with the dagger in his back, I think this is actually King Lane Rin. Now you can see the dagger in his neck, right? And the golden armor looks very similar to the armor that we see Lane wear later on. Like I just told you in the origin story, Garona didn't betray them until much later on, until she became a trusted friend of the king and Lothar. As they confronted Medivh, she was there, she became a friend, and then she was forced to betray them within Stormwind Castle. Now things have already changed, so why not have Garona betray the king in the open field? With a dagger in his back, Lothar freaking out that he tried to trust an orc like that, or at least a half orc like that. And the whole armor bit, I'll show you the picture of it, it looks very similar. So I would say that this is the moment where Lothar finds out that his friend and king has died, and a later shot will give more details about that, but we'll get that in a moment. Then there are the orcs that jump down to attack the humans. There's this kid that's about to get crushed. Then there was this interesting shot, like I'm not going to cover each and every one of them, but this shot was really interesting. Notice how there's a wolf standing next to Durotan as they observe Westfall. And later on, Durotan will actually wear a wolf as a hat, like a cloak. I wonder if this companion, in later shots you actually see the wolf strike out and attack. I wonder if he's going to bite the dust throughout the movie and Durotan is going to fashion him in an honorable memento as his cap. Or perhaps this is a whole different armor piece. I just thought it was interesting because at some point you do see him wear it and then he's taking it off again. Thought I would point it out. Now next to Durotan, we can see Orgrim and the legendary Doomhammer standing tall, standing proud. Although throughout the trailer you can actually see more orcs fighting with a hammer. I was trying to find it, trying to pinpoint it, and I was like, oh yeah. Apparently a lot more orcs use hammers these days. But there you go, that's Orgrim Doomhammer and his legendary weapon. The next shot is the Whatever Happened speech, where we get to see young baby Thrall, and damn is Thrall an ugly baby. They had to put him in the cinematic, of course, in the trailer, in the movie. In fact, now a lot of people asked, why is Thrall green in shot when his parents are not? And in the origin story, by this time, his parents were definitely green, or at least they were flaking. And I think that part of it, some of you already pointed out that you can see shots with Draka flaking, but I think it's more about making a clear difference between the orcs that are simply there for the conquest and the invasion, and the orcs that are going to team up with the humans to fight back, that are like, this is not right. I think it's more to make an easier difference between the two. And then, of course, you can't make Thrall brown, because who doesn't know about Thrall? So he had to turn green, and his parents might be flaking in the movie, they might make a reference to it, but I think that's more of the reason, like make a clear distinguish between the two factions. So after that, Lane says we need to unite, and then you get the beautiful shot of Queen Taria, which is Varian's mother, just a beautiful shot. And then there is like this random shot that suddenly pops up, which a lot of people assume that this orc is the orc Ner'zhul. Since he has the whole skull face going on, a lot of people are like, well, this is Ner'zhul. Yet what I found interesting is that there's lightning in the background. Origin story, the orcs were already actually disconnected from the elements. They were no longer able to use the shamanistic powers by the time that they started to use fell magic, that they started to drink demon blood, and especially by the time that they stepped through the portal and started their invasion of Azeroth. So I wonder when exactly this scene takes place. It could be a very early establishing shot, like this is Ner'zhul, he's the one that got us corrupted in the first place, and then his apprentice Gul'dan took over. Or perhaps this is something entirely random that happens in the movie. Who knows? Next we have Garona. That says that it doesn't have to be like this. Garona is captured at this point, so she mentions there's one that could help us team up with Gul'dan, and I think it's gonna happen that the humans interact with Garona, they find her, she is this assassin kind of guy, she makes contact with them, she's imprisoned, she convinces them to let her out so that they can team up with Gul'dan and fight together, and then later on she will betray the king, and Lofar's like, oh boy, what have I done? The next shot is orcs attacking orcs, and an interesting detail is that you can actually see the Frostwolf banner in the background. So by this point, the orcs are actually attacking the Frostwolf clan, which means that they've spoken out against Gul'dan, they are now exiled, and they're no longer part of the Horde. Then there is this guy. I was trying to figure out who exactly he is, I'm not entirely sure, but he shoots at the orcs, which made for an awesome shot. It was like a millisecond that you could see him, but he was there. And what I found really funny is that if you go frame by frame, you can actually see that the orc already starts dropping his hammer just a second before he's actually hit in the chest. So he was like, oh, a shot is coming, let me drop my hammer. I thought that was pretty funny to see. Then we have the humans together with Garona. Like I mentioned, Garona teams up with the humans. They go out to meet with Gul'dan, who's actually willing to work with them. And here you have the golden armor that I was talking about earlier. And like I said, this is entirely speculation. This is entirely my interpretation of the trailer, and don't take this as set in stone. But I thought that the golden armor looks very much like the golden armor of the guy on the floor with the dagger in his back. Then we have the eagle flying up to Gul'dan in the sky. Like I mentioned, originally Gul'dan didn't go airborne until way later, but it is a very beautiful shot. Then there is this shot with Gul'dan riding the horse, and I actually tweeted it out. This shot just looks so sad. The horse looks like, get this orc off my back. He is too heavy, get him off my back. And Gul'dan is just face palming the horse and holding it by its head. I was like, this looks really awkward. I don't know what's going on here, but this looks really awkward. Then we have a shot of Blackhand, war chief of the Horde. Blackhand was actually a puppet of Gul'dan. Gul'dan was actually running the show behind the curtains. He was the one ruling the Horde, but he used Blackhand as his face, sort of say, like he corrupted things from behind the curtains. Then there is this shot in which Gul'dan confronts Gul'dan, and I love this shot because if you look closely to Gul'dan, in-game he has like this armor bit on with the spikes, but here you can actually see that his body is like transformed and it looks really awesome. And Gul'dan just lays the smackdown of him. You can see the fell blood coming out, you can see the glowing green eyes. This is the guy responsible for the situation that they're in. And Gul'dan, as you can clearly see, he speaks out, which probably leads into that raid of orcs on the Frostwolf village and Gul'dan's willingness to work together with the humans. Probably. Now you might wonder, how did this happen in the origin story? In the origin story, Gul'dan also tried to speak out against Gul'dan, but he couldn't, because he knew that that would mean certain exile. He stuck to that plan until the moment came where they actually opened up the Dark Portal, and Gul'dan sacrificed a young Draenei child to make this happen. When that happened, when an innocent had to be sacrificed, he could no longer hold his tongue. He spoke out against Gul'dan. The other orcs, they tackled him to the ground before they could do anything, and then it quickly flashes forward to the moment where Gul'dan and Draka are talking to each other. They're asking each other, what should we do? I'm gonna talk to Orgrim Doomhammer. They inform their longtime friend Orgrim Doomhammer about Gul'dan's betrayal, about this being the wrong path of the Horde. Orgrim is like, I believe you, I trust you. He claims the Horde and he tries to lead it to a more honorful path. Unfortunately for Gul'dan and Draka, after that meeting is when Gul'dan's assassins showed up, they took their life and they left baby Thrall to the wilds. Then we have a scene between Lofar and Garona, and this scene I was like, what are you doing? A love interest between Lofar and Garona? Like, this scene will probably take place between the point of encountering Garona in prisons. You don't have to do this, and then he's like, we'll save this world together. They meet up with Gul'dan, and then Garona betrays them. That would be, you know, the most logical thing to happen. But in the origin story, Garona didn't fall in love with Lofar. She actually fell in love with Medivh. Apparently now she's chosen Lofar. Whatever. Now the next scene I thought was really interesting. It's probably the most interesting one out of all of them. The guy on stage, raising a sword, as far as I can tell, is Anduin Lothar. The queen is standing at his side, yet behind them you can see a coffin, and Corona is nowhere to be found. I think this shot is established after Lothar finds his friend in the field stabbed by the dagger, and instead of the entire city of Stormwind falling and all of them moving to Lordaeron to form the Alliance of Lordaeron, for the sake of the movie they decided to go with this event, the death of King Lane Rin, to cause the creation of the Alliance of Lordaeron. You can even hear them yell for the Alliance, and in the audience you can even see the High Elves. Now there were earlier concept art and there was an earlier trailer where people spoke about it. There was apparently also the dwarves in Idaforge part of all of this. So I'm gonna guess that this death scene, this ceremony, this is the moment where High Elves, humans and dwarves, they're gonna band together and they're going to fight back against the hordes. Now on the left of the stage we see 3 children. I'm not sure who all of them are. I think one of them is young Varian Rin, and one of them is probably Khadgar, because he looks a lot like the actor that's going to play Khadgar. Now on the right we have Creepy Rope Guy, and I'm not sure who this is, but it could very well be that this is the Guardian Medivh. But then you have to wonder, how does that work? Do they confront Medivh at some point? Like, when exactly is Khadgar getting his youth trained? Do they not confront Medivh? Is that going to be like the plot twist at the end, where Lothar fights back against the horde and then Medivh shows up like, "It was always me. Look at my bald, scary head. You never saw this coming." I don't know, but damn, that looks creepy. If that's Medivh, then he looks completely different from what we know. And it would make sense. He kind of looks like that guy from Harry Potter with Voldemort inside of him. Would make sense since he has Sargeras inside of him. Who knows? But that's just my interpretation of this scene. Probably the most interesting one that you can find in the trailer. And like I said, it's up for interpretation. The rest of the shot is all about Durotan and his clan stepping away from the rest of the horde. It's uncertain if Orgrim Doomhammer is going to join him, but it could be, since Orgrim still looks brown in the cinematic in the trailer. I'm guessing that he's gonna join his buddy Durotan, but who knows. Then there's the whole baby Moses Thrall thing that had me going like, really? I know we call him Green Jesus, but that's just for fun. You know, you didn't have to go here. But what we can see here is the moment where Draka places ugly baby Thrall in a little basket and sends him away. In the origin story, it was Gul'dan's assassins that took care of Draka and Durotan, as Thrall was left to the wild, and then he was picked up by Blackmore, who trained him in the ways of Gladiator. Whole different story, but I think that was a little bit too gruesome to show in the movie. So what they did instead was, instead of leaving him behind in the wild, they actually put him in a basket, and then in the final shot you see a green orc pop up. So maybe this green orc is just about to get ready to take care of Draka. Maybe she'll fight her way out of there. Who knows? But this is the point where they leave Thrall, they let him go, and that will start his journey to become the new war chief of the Hordes. Next, we have a shot with Durotan and Orgrim with a whole bunch of green orcs. Again, the whole wolf cap thing is happening here. Later on, you actually see him take off the wolf cap, which is, I'm like, okay, you just got it on, and you want to take it off again. Maybe the wolf is going to bite the dust, maybe he's going to make armor out of it, or maybe he just brought this with him and I didn't see it earlier. Who knows? More fighting happens, and then there's this shot where you see Lothar make the jump and then an eagle comes by to catch him. And there's not much story-wise that I can talk about here, but I was just baffled by this scene because I really hope I can show you in slow motion. That eagle makes a really weird dive where he first, he turns his neck and then the rest of his body joins him. And then Lothar runs out and he flips the sword from one hand to the other for no apparent reason, and he has no shoes on. I just wanted to point that out. It was like a weird scene. And the final one we can talk about is Lothar flying in on his griffin as the troops are fighting at the Dark Portal. Like I said, the movie, it's stepping away from the origin story, since the Dark Portal, it wasn't discovered until well after into the storyline. So there's the fall of Stormwind, the entire city that fell, the formation of the Alliance of Lordaeron, the siege at Lordaeron, which was broken by the Alliance, the battle at Blackrock Mountain, and then they discovered the Dark Portal. It seems like they've decided to cut out that bit of a story, considering the whole Lordaeron part, and they probably did this to avoid having to explain more about that area, about the kingships. Like, it's a lot to explain if you want to explain all the people that joined the Alliance of Lordaeron, all the different countries and areas. That's a lot of work. So in short, with the Warcraft movie, I think the main difference that they're going with is instead of letting the city of Stormwind fall, instead they're gonna go with the death of King Lane Rin, and that death is going to cause the formation of the Alliance of Lordaeron. So they're skipping that whole part with Illyria and Trevelyan and setting sail. That entire part is cut out. The Alliance is formed. They fight back against the Horde. Durotan and Lothar are working together now, and together we're gonna have to battle at the Dark Portal and hopefully be able to shut down the portal and save the world. Right, everyone. That is my rendition of what we've seen so far of the Warcraft movie trailer. I hope it was informative and not too confusing. If you have any questions or things to point out that I didn't catch yet, by all means, leave a comment down below. Can't wait to see what you have to say, and if you have any questions, I'll do my best to get back to you. As always, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Subscribe if you like my videos, leave a like on this one if you enjoyed it, and until next time, guys. See ya!